Hi everyone, it's Claire from ScrappyNerdUK and welcome to episode 4 of the cut files. So today I'm working with a stitch cut file, and I wanted to show you a different way to use a cut file, an SVG, a silhouette file, a studio file, where if you don't have a cutting machine, you could still use the stitched file to create a layout. So I only have an A4 printer, so I actually printed the cut file out onto A4, and you could do the same with just a normal cut file as well, and cut around the lines if you are so inclined to do that, especially if it's a more simple design. But this here, I just printed it out, laid it on top of a piece of A4, and you could always cut this out and use it as an embellishment or like a larger element on a 12 by 12 layout, or if you're an A4 scrapper or an 8.5 by 11 if you're in the US, then you could do this as well. So I'm just going to show you a really simple stitching technique. This is just a back stitch, so up through the first hole and then down, and then you come up through the next hole and then you connect those again, and then up through that hole and down into the empty one, up through the empty one, oops, and I dropped the needle of course, and then back down that one and connect it, and then once more just up through that hole, down through the next empty one, up through the next empty one, and then back and connect it. So that is a very simple back stitch, and that's how it should look on the back. And once that's all done, this is how it turns out. So that is super cute. Now I've obviously done it on a 12 by 12. I've just used my cutting machine to cut the stitching holes, and I've used an ombre thread, so it goes sort of pink through to red and back again, and that's given it a really nice design. And you can always mix and match threads as well, so if you wanted a rainbow one, that'd be quite cool. So here I'm using the cut files that I'm working with, they're all Paige Evans cut files, and you can find them on her Etsy store. And I'll try and leave a link down in the description box so you can go and have a look if you want to. So I'm using mainly Wonders, which is the newest collection, for the embellishments, but I wanted to back my white cardstock with a pattern paper, and so I pulled out the Horizons project pad, and I've just pulled the single colour which matches really well with the pink in this thread. So I'm going to use that as my background, and that is just literally going to be just I think it's about a 1/2 inch border around, and that's just going to go straight down on to that piece of pinky purpley cardstock. I'm just going to ruffle the edges here. I seem to have lost my paper distresser, so I'm just using scissors, which I never recommend, especially with me, but it does the job. So I'm just going to ruffle the edges, and if you like a more clean look, then you could skip that step. And you can see there on the back all the bits of stitching, and I haven't necessarily gone and stuck any of those down because they are going to get trapped anyway with the double-sided tape. So I'm just going to pull the tape halfway back, and that will allow me to be able to just get this into place, just to make sure it's fully lined up before I take the backing fully off. And this is a great tip if you are using another pattern paper or a single colour cardstock behind your white cardstock or whatever you've chosen to go with. And don't do what I did though. I actually pulled the double-sided tape off of the bit that goes down the middle. I pulled it the wrong way, so I had to shimmy my hand in and get that pulled out. And there we are. There is my background nicely prepped. So I am now working on the photo cluster. So I'm just going with a single photo on this, and the most natural space on this cut file to place the photo is to put it down to the bottom right. So for me, the word love is probably going to be my title. You could add, I suppose you could add a secondary title on as well if you wanted, and most pieces of embellishments come with some sort of words anyway, so there'll be extra wordy bits featuring on here. So again, I'm just going to use the Wonders not the Wonders, I'm going to use the Horizons 6x8 paper pad. At this stage when I'm filming, I had ordered, I'd have some of the Wonders stuff ordered, but I was waiting for an order for the rest of the stuff that I'd ordered, and it's been weeks. It has since arrived, but when I was filming this, it wasn't here, so I had to work with what I had. I do like to stick to the same collection, but also this just shows that actually those two collections do work really well together in terms of the colour tones, and so I had no issue with making these papers and the embellishments. So the papers from Horizons and the embellishments from Wonders all work really well together. And again, I should probably have distressed some of these edges before I stuck everything down, but sometimes I like a bit of a clean look behind my photo, and sometimes I like a bit of a messy look. So that is my photo, and I'm just going to use some, this is just some kids craft foam, fun foam, whatever you want to call it. And if I've got a larger area that I want to pop up, rather than using a whole load of foam dots, I will use the craft foam instead, just so I don't have to sit and peel a million backing pieces off of foam dots. And then I'm just going to use double-sided tape. At this stage, I am still not talking with my ATG, and so that's the reason why I'm using double-sided tape. But also, when it comes to things like the foam as well, I do tend to use actual double-sided tape instead, because I do find it a bit stronger. So depending on what I'm working with. So here are the embellishments. So I wanted to use one of these little rosette pieces, and this one here says Sunshine and Smiles, and we were in the garden and it was lovely and warm, and so that is going to work perfectly for my photo. And then I used one of those little banner pieces. I love those banners. So that is a fairly new embellishment that I've not seen before in many collections, so it was really nice to get those. And so that is going to start to form the bottom cluster where my photo is going to sit. And then I'm just digging into this is the floral ephemera pack at the moment, and the florals are quite big, and so I'm going to show you a little trick where you can actually make your florals go so much further. Not so much with the purple one that you can see, but the blue one that I've tucked, the greeny blue one I've tucked behind the photo, we are going to magically make that double. So just having a look through the rest of the bits on here. So I've got a little butterfly and a little bee because we're in the garden. So I want to include those somewhere. And also those two little birds, not so little, the two big birds at the top there. I really liked how that filled some of that area and just added a bit of extra interest on the layout as well. So I'm just sifting through the floral ephemera, and I think that's everything that I go with from that pack. And then I go back to the little banners, and I wanted to include a bit of purple at the top. So I've got purple in my cluster down the bottom, and we've got some of that tealy blue, which features on the top bit where the bird is, and also where the flower and the butterfly is at the bottom. So just making sure that I'm moving these colours around the page. And again, I've got a little purple flower to the right as well. So making sure I've got each of the colours in each of the clusters that I'm doing. So I've just got two, one around the photo and one to the top left. And then we've got the pink from the banner that says So Much Love. And so I decided to use the Happy Day, which is in just the standard die cut pack. And then I'm just having to sift through the rest of the die cut pack, and I'm going to start layering a couple of pieces just behind the photo. Again, the same colours, that blue and that pink, just pulling it all in together. And there was a bit of an odd space above my photo, and that the memo and the little tab file worked really well. So I'm just going to go ahead and awkwardly get this all stuck down. Because ideally I would have pulled this all off the page and stuck it all down, and then stuck it all back down on the page, but I didn't really want to lose the position of where I've got everything, so I'm just going to lift things up one by one and get them all stuck down. So the flower is going to just nestle in to the side of that pink banner piece. And that little rosette is already stuck to it, so I'm just going to get that back down on there. And this is where I'm going to double that piece of ephemera, so just cutting it in half because only half of it's going to be seen anyway, so I can save that other half for another layout, which is something that I do quite frequently. So if you've got larger pieces of ephemera and it's something like a flower, then it works really well if you get that cut down, and it'll just make your die cuts last a lot longer. So I'm just adding in the little flower and the little bee over to the left. Decided not to put it underneath in the end because that is going to be the perfect space for my journaling. And then I'm just going to tuck that back in just under the photo. And then I've just got a couple of pieces to the other side of my photo, and I'm going to add some foam dots and just to add a little bit of dimension. And I've said this many times before, but I love the shadows that you get behind the pieces that you add up on foam as well. It just gives you just some added interest, and it just stops everything from looking so flat. So I'm just figuring out how I'm going to poke those in, and then working on this top cluster. So I'm going to stick the pink bird flat, and I'm just going to pop that blue one up with some foam dots. This is what I mean about pulling the backings off. It's not that bad when you've got something of this size, but if I was using these behind my photo, then it'd take me forever. So I'm just having the birds facing one another, because you've got one that's coming into the page and one that's flying out. So grouping those together makes them look a lot more cohesive and natural. And I really wanted to kind of pop that happy day piece of ephemera in underneath the banner, and I found that it was just a little too big. It was going over the L of the love too much. I'm just taking a pair of scissors and just trimming around the edge of that just to make it a little smaller. And it was one of those like wonky cut ones anyway, so my cutting on it wouldn't make any difference, so I hacked it with a pair of scissors and just made it work for me. And it goes over the L still, but not as much. You can still see that the word says love. And then next up, I'm going to come in with some enamel dots. So these are just from my stash. These aren't from the collection. So I'm just having a look which colourway is going to work the best. And I think I decide with those which are the pastels. And then I'm going to just group 3 of these into kind of the bottom right area. That left area where I've got the cluster of flowers. Just deciding which colours I want to use. So I'm just sticking with the colours that are in the collection already. And then 3 up into that top cluster as well. And now on to some... I'm going to get my Heidi Swap Colour Shine ready first. I'm just going to use a bit of gold. But before I do that, I want to add my journaling. So I'm just going to use I tried to get that little rosette thing off so I can use my T-square ruler, but it was firmly stuck down. So I'm just going to have to eyeball the lines. So sometimes I add journaling lines. I tend to write at a wonky angle, so it always goes upwards or downwards. So I always a lot of the time I tend to add journaling lines in to stop that from happening. And then just some finishing touches here with some of the Heidi Swap Colour Shine in the gold, which is fast running out, and I wish they'd release a new one. I'm panicking a little bit. But yeah, this is the layout pretty much finished. So thank you very much for joining me today. If you have enjoyed the inspiration for this layout, then I would appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. If you are new here, I would love you to subscribe to my channel. Be sure as well to hit the little bell button that notifies you when I upload a new video every time. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.